Bosch argues with chat about weed addiction and bans angry chatter. Well, before we start, should probably, once again, this is all legal medicinal herbs that are, you know.
It is impossible for me to describe how little I trust people who habitually use drugs. Vosh, it feels bad when you say that because I'm legit trying to get off drugs. Yeah, so wouldn't that mean that you're Wait, why? Wait, why? Wouldn't it be the opposite? Wouldn't you feel bad about that if you were trying to get on drugs and I was condemning drug use? That's good. I thought you smoked in the bank. No, I never smoke. I drink sometimes, and I have a lot of coffee. Vosh, shame.
His drugs are fine, though. I mean, Americans have, by and large, kidded themselves that caffeine is not a drug. I don't know where this notion came from that caffeine isn't a drug. I don't know why we think it's all right to tell kids not to do drugs, but then give them caffeine. I don't know why it's treated so much less seriously than every other drug in existence. But here's yet another example of that. Here's a guy that just told you that he doesn't trust any drug user. Anybody who habitually uses any drug, meh, don't trust him. The next breath, by the way, I'm a habitual caffeine user. Oh, okay. Well, that one's different, though. We've decided as a society that one's different. Provide me the logic for why it's different. Can't do it. But it's different. Trust us.
Shaming people doesn't help them get off. If I wanted them to get off, I would jerk them off, okay? If I wanted to make broad...
Oh, okay, well, we could talk about that in the DMs sometime, Vosh. Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly.
Statements saying that I don't trust habitual drug users, I would make broad statements saying that I don't trust habitual drug users. I'm not trying to help anyone get off. I'm not talking to a person
I mean, I hate this approach where all drugs are now being treated as though they're 100% equivalent to one another. Right? Like there's no qualitative difference. It's just drugs. Like Vosh basically right here has turned into a 1980s anti-drug PSA where all drugs are just being treated as one blanket thing. And we're going to ignore any sort of pharmacological differences that might exist between them because that's not what this is about. This is about Vosh feeling superior because his drug is okay. His caffeine addiction, there's no problem there. That's a nice little stimulant. That keeps him going.
Directly. I'm just saying that I don't. Drugs, the thing that impede the functioning of your brain. Why are you can say anything to this chat. I swear. Oh my.
Things that impede the functioning of your brain. Well, I mean, once again, we got to talk about the drug. I mean, one of the drugs you said you do engage in is alcohol. I would say that on a list of drugs that impede the functioning of the brain, alcohol's got to be close to the tippy top, right? Now, he didn't say he's a habitual alcohol user. He says he gets drunk once in a while. And I'm sure, you know, he would, you know, obviously point out that caveat. But as far as drugs that inhibit your reasoning faculties, that one's close to the tippy top of the list. There's plenty of drugs that enhance your brain's functions. Look at any sort of pharmacological study of LSD, mushrooms, hallucinogens in general. That broadens your mind in many ways. You can look up at a popcorn ceiling and see an amazingly intricate Renaissance-style painting in full, gorgeous detail on LSD. I know because I've experienced that. Now, probably wouldn't be the best drug to do my taxes on, but in terms of my visual imagination, my mind has been gigantically and enormously expanded. One of the reasons that mushrooms have been posited as a potential drug to treat depression is that it gets rid of old neural connections and forms new ones. So the very connectivity of your brain begins to change. Now, that's already something that kind of happens as a natural process, but a lot of your engrams and your ingrained behaviors are more capable of being changed when you're on mushrooms than they are when you're not. Now, is that a good thing for every single scenario? Probably not. Probably not a good idea to go to the bank and do some things with your accounts at that point. Better drug for that would be caffeine or some other stimulant, Adderall maybe. Things like that could help you in that scenario. Those are the helpful drugs for that task. But if you're going to, I don't know, create a piece of visual art, something like a little bit of mushrooms might help. If you're going to do something like go to a therapy session and try to overcome your depression, something like mushrooms might help. So this is just a very simplistic way of looking at drugs from a guy that's always chastising people about not bringing any nuance to their arguments. It seems like nuance is always weaponized with VAUSH, isn't it? When you say something he doesn't agree with, he's got a mountain of nuance. When he says something disagreeable, the nuance well done run dry. Wouldn't you know it? Now, we're only 48 seconds in. I might be being unfair here. He might be willing to engage with some of the nuance in this argument, so let's see.
My God, dude, literally anything. Hey, Chad, I've got a banger of a hot take here. Don't you think drugs impede reasoning somewhat?
Some do, some don't. Don't treat drugs like a monolithic thing.
I don't know about that one, Vosh. I feel like that might be problematic. I feel like that might be ableist. I feel like that might be a little bit retarded. Is it though, chat? Is that?
Yes. Yes, it actually is.
Is that the thing that I said? Is it retarded? So that's why you hate musicians? Unironically. Weren't you high when debating someone back in 2019?
Unironically hates musicians, huh? I mean, I'm pretty sure that his life has been enhanced through music. Even if VAUSH is not the kind of guy that will put on a record or something or turn on Spotify, I guarantee plenty of the anime that he has watched has been enhanced by music. Those musicians, in many instances, were enhanced by drugs.
Yeah, I stopped smoking about 3 years ago. But yeah, I was high back then. You've done several drunk streams? Yeah. Have you noticed any impairment to my reasoning when I do them? Have you noticed a correlation perhaps between me being drunk on stream and me dedicating 90 minutes of that stream to making jokes that I don't have a water sports kink? Like, what do you want from me? How's the Adderall shortage going? Brutal as always. Your alcohol stream's the funniest ever.
Oh, so he's on Adderall too. Okay. I didn't know that. So, dependent on Adderall, a drug. Dependent on caffeine, a drug. Also, do you need 2 stimulants coursing through your system at all times? Like, I choose what I'm going to do on most days. I have ADHD. I take Adderall to help me with it. And I make a choice on most days. Is this a caffeine day or is this an Adderall day? Because I need one of the two.
Ever though? Yeah, being drunk is super fun. I'm a happy drunk. Always happy when I'm drunk and horny. Yes, but only when you're drunk. I don't distrust you as a person when sober because you've been drunk in the past. Dog, are we really doing this? I said habitual drug users, as in people who use them frequently. People who frequently use drugs, either because they have an addiction or because they're seeking the escapism, I have reasons to distrust both. If you don't distrust either of them, you're an idiot. It's okay to be those things while also distrusting them. For example, you could fairly say that you distrust people who are overly, chauvinistic as a joke. You can say that about me. That's fine. Stop pretending that there's no reason to say that with regards to drugs and reasonability, okay? Why does everyone get offended by everything that I say? You realize you could just go any other fucking leftist online who are all pissing themselves and shitting themselves nonstop trying not to offend their fucking piss crybaby audience, you know?
You know, it's funny because I kind of think of VAUSH's audience as being totally sycophantic towards him. And on some issues, they certainly are. But it's nice to see them giving him this big dose of pushback on this really bizarrely bad take where not only is he a habitual drug user himself and admittedly so. I mean, well, for me, it's treatment, though. Oh, I need the treatment. Oh. Okay, that makes it totally different, okay? Drugs make you unreasonable, except the drugs I do. Those are the reasonable making drugs, and they are, to be fair. But he acts like there's no purpose to any of these drugs. The purpose of alcohol, as we all know, is to get rid of some of those pesky inhibitions that hold us back. Now, for some people, that's a really fucking bad idea. For some people, it's a pretty necessary thing. If you are drinking alcohol on a daily basis, then you have a problem. But I don't think that makes you untrustworthy. I don't think to myself, a person who drinks on a daily basis is not a trustworthy person. Now, there might be certain tasks that I don't trust them with. There might be certain things I would not ask them to do because of that. But I don't think that there is some deep, horrible failing in their moral character at that point. I will add as a caveat to all this stuff that I'm saying, that there are certain drugs that are so powerfully habit-forming and so expensive that you cannot trust the people on them because they've become addicts and they're going to do anything they can to get drugs. And if that means stealing from you, even if you're their best friend, they're going to do it. So in that instance, yes, you cannot trust an addict of certain drugs. But someone who microdoses mushrooms every day, whatever, dude. Someone who takes Adderall every day, drinks caffeine every day, who gives a shit?
It's drugs and music, okay? We need to add to a list of stuff that I can't bring up. VAUSH, I trust weed heads, but I don't trust like alcoholics. Yeah, that's true. Alcoholics are probably less trustworthy on average than weed heads by a pretty significant margin. VAUSH, why? If they don't steal or act abusive when high, what's the issue? God fucking damn it, dude. Come on. Apply some critical thinking. Can you think of any possible issues with habitual drug use? Just any, like hypothetically. Just how about we put to use?
I mean, he obviously did think of some hypotheticals because he built those into the question. He obviously did think of that. He put that in the question itself when he said, if they're not stealing and they're not whatever the other thing was, then what's the problem? So basically he said, like, accepting these behaviors that are obviously a problem, what's the problem? And VAUSH is like, well, are you really so small-brained you can't even think of the issues that might come up? He did. He wants to know what besides those issues he came up with could possibly be your issue. I mean, I don't know what the purpose of doing a stream and interacting with a chat is if you're going to get mad at them for just asking a question. And I know who I do a show with, okay? I realize the irony of that statement coming from me.
Some of the faculties that we've developed during the stream, during the time that we've spent together, and you could think possibly, what about the habitual use of a chemical that impedes brain functioning might mean theoretically, about a person or about what they do or how they act? Just could you fill in the blanks? Do I have to explain all of it?
Yeah, please do.
You can this reminds me of that email I got where I said you shouldn't do crack in a subway, and a person emailed me being like,
he's going through an awful lot of explanation about why he's not going to explain his position any further. Is this just an instance where VAUSH said something that he knows is indefensible, so now instead of picking up the gauntlet and defending it, he's just going to attack anyone who asks him to? Like, are you really so insignificantly tiny-brained that you can't fathom the plethora of issues that might arise from if someone is taking a mind-breaking substance that just destroys their reason, destroys their ability to understand anything going on around them? If they're doing that on a daily basis, non-stop, every second of every day, can you not see why that person is a problem when it comes to the issue of trust? It's like, okay, well, I guess if you lay on the hyperbole that thick, sure.
I want to debate you on how it's problematic of you to have said that you can't do crack in a subway. Crack users have rights too, and where else are they supposed to do it, you know? Vosh, you're just really fucking weird on this topic. I've known many people who smoke and they're perfectly fine, functional people. Yeah, including you, according to you. The only reason you'd be acting this way is if you were defensive. The idea of habitual use of drugs can make a person...
Yeah, well, people get kind of defensive when you just blanket label them untrustworthy for some superficial reason. It'd be like, man, anyone who's ever had a keloid, don't trust them. You know, like if someone was out there earnestly saying that, you can't trust someone with ADHD, can't trust someone on Adderall, can't trust someone who drinks caffeine. Like, you're not going to be offended by that if someone says that? I think you probably would be.
And untrustworthy. The idea that this is even remotely controversial to you is demonstrative of a problem in your brain, okay? Are you high now? Like, seriously, come on. Jesus Christ. Like, you realize how you sound, right? This is like I knew an aunt who smoked for 30 years and never got lung cancer. I have a friend who drinks all the time, and he's like, what argument are you making? What are you even saying? What are you saying to me right now? What words are you using? Is this English? Are you using English right now? Is this a different language? Is this Portuguese, the fake version of Spanish? What are you saying? There's always going to be someone in chat who's going to...
I think Vosh needs to get more of a curl in his mustache right there. When in lieu of an argument, he just starts belittling and berating his audience, I think he should start being like, are you a child? Are you an imbecile? Is that what's going on here? Because only an imbecile would say the thing that you have just said to me, sir. And twist up the... He needs that.
Interpret whatever you say as a personal attack no matter what because it happens to hit their particular anxiety. Yeah, fuck, that's always it. It's always people who can't... It's a sign of low self-esteem because I can disagree with people, but when people, like when I watch live streamers and they say some shit I disagree with, I never think I'm being attacked. I never think that, even if it's my shit. And like, I deal with that a lot too because I have plenty of extremely strong interests and disinterests. So it's not as though I'm not easy to like be disagreeable towards, at least by my definition.
Okay, so according to Vosh, he would not be offended. So I take back what I said. I take him at his word. I don't think he... So I retract that particular piece of the argument.
But I never interpret it as a personal attack. But a lot of people get really upset because they're like, oh no, you know? Like,
I mean, whether it is interpreted as a personal attack or not, it just doesn't make sense. Setting any potentially offended feelings aside, the argument doesn't hold up for reasons I've already outlined. I think that more important than condemning all drugs is understanding what drugs are useful in what scenario and what are you using them for and how are you using them. I think that there's always going to be places where a certain drug might be appropriate. Now, there's certain drugs out there I just don't think you should ever do under any circumstance. I don't think you should do crack, probably shouldn't do heroin or really any opioid. I think the downside of those is just too strong. But there's plenty of drugs out there that are very positive or can be very positive if used in the right context. So I just don't really understand the argument being presented there.